Oh, lovely. I'll do better next time.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call the Agricultural Committee to order at 10:30. We have roll call.
Let's see. Miss Allen, are you there? Okay. Juby?
Juby here.
Leonard?
Leonard's on the count.
Sanchez?
Sanchez present.
Williams?
Williams here.
Roth?
Roth here.
Kenyon?
We have a quorum. Nobody's asked for a vote. And I know Leonard's out of town. Miss Allen? Hey, Deborah?
I'm
Can't
not
believe
seeing
she's
her
not
on at
here.
this point.
Okay. So we need approval of minutes from March 21st. Mr. Sanchez, would you ask for,
I'd ask for unanimous consent to approve the minutes.
unless anybody's opposed, they're approved. Then we have partners, our Kane County Farm Bureau partner. Oh, there's no public comment. Oh, yes, we do. We have or is she gonna be part of the program?
He's on the agenda.
Okay. We're working on the questions for you, young lady. Kane County Farm Bureau, Mr. Arnold?
I've asked Mr. Peters to go through some pictures from our weekend event that we call Touch a Tractor. It's a Farm City open house. Was held last Thursday, Friday, Saturday, no, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, excuse me. With a legislative meet and greet on Wednesday. A number of you were at that meet and greet, and we appreciate your attendance. I think we had about 35 or 40 guests at the meet and greet. We had about 2,500 guests over the weekend visit the Farm Bureau to.
Microphone?
That must be Bates.
I apologize. I didn't know anybody was online. We had about 2,500 guests over the weekend to, well, basically to touch tractors. As you can see from the pictures here, we installed an Illinois-shaped prairie pollinator rain garden 2 years ago. And we also had the children that were there helped us plant about 100 plants in the rain garden. That was kind of a last minute addition. We didn't know that we were going to have such favorable weather or that home and garden centers would have some native pollinator plants available this early in the year. In addition to that, I really don't have a whole lot more to report this month. I did tell you last month that we had 42 scholarship applications that we would be reviewing in the month of March. Our foundation awarded $43,000 in scholarships to 25 students for the 24-25 school year. And we will be announcing those students and their fields of study and their institutions of higher education in our May King County Farmer, and we will be inviting them and their parents as well as some of our donors into a scholarship recognition ceremony, I believe on the 12th of July. I also, and I neglected to bring this with me, and we don't often do this, I printed out about 15 sheets on our organization's opposition to a Senate bill, Senate Bill 771, which is titled, what is it titled? I didn't write the title down. But it's a bill that, in our opinion, will unnecessarily increase regulatory burdens in regards to wetlands. It proposes state regulation of wetlands through the Illinois Department of Agriculture and/or the Illinois Department of Natural Resources and/or the Illinois EPA. And we think that we think basically it's trying to institute at a state level wetlands regulation that were rejected by the U.S. Supreme Court. So that bill is in the Illinois Senate right now, and we are asking our members to contact their senators in opposition to that legislation. That concludes my report.
That it?
That's it.
After that, touch a tractor? It's one of your best years ever.
It was all behind you. You didn't,
I saw it here.
okay.
He
Okay.
he moved
It-
it too fast.
I think it was one of our best years ever. And, we really appreciate the support, of the community, and, we saw many of you, at the Farm Bureau over the weekend. So again, thanks very much.
We had 4 board members and the county chairman attended that event. And then we went to the pork chop dinner, and it's just a fun afternoon. Yeah, would you like to say something? Go ahead.
Yes, I would, please. So I just want to thank you, because those of us that are city people these days, to get out and, like my granddaughter, to see the bees was amazing. And I don't think she's ever got to hold a baby chicken before. And so just the educational value that these young children got was phenomenal. So thank you for doing this.
Any other questions? Roth?
I was there. I get all my questions.
Doesn't
It was a
happen.
very well run
Yeah.
presentation.
Yeah, it was. It was,
Yeah,
it's
Mr.
fun to see.
Mr. Kenyon, if you'll allow me, and this has nothing to do with touch tractor. But the chairwoman asked me earlier today about economic development. And as we're putting together the content for our May King County Farmer publication that goes out to our members, our state organization is is celebrating the 50th anniversary of their weekly publication, which is called Farm Week. And they publish a lot of interesting articles, historical articles. And earlier this month, in electronic version, they published an article from, I believe it was April of 1986. And it was an interview with John White Jr., who was a former president of the Illinois Farm Bureau. John White Jr. farms on Main Street, west of Batavia. And in that interview, he talked about many of you are of my generation, and you may remember pulling into gas stations when gas pumps had stickers on them that said no alcohol added. And that was the subject of this story. It was John White's meeting with officials at Amoco Oil Company, which is now British Petroleum, and getting them to agree to remove the no alcohol added stickers from their gas pumps in 1986. In 1986, we used 300 million bushels of corn to produce ethanol. In 2022, we use 5.25 billion bushels of corn to produce ethanol. And I just think that that's remarkable that we've gone from 300 million to 5.25 billion bushels of corn. And that doesn't consume all of the corn. There are DDGs, digestible dried grains that come from that process that are then fed to livestock. But we thought it was important enough to put in our King County Farmer. And I think it's important to share with an audience like this that as we increase the productivity, we have also found new and better markets for the products that farmers are producing, and products that have, I think, a very significant environmental benefit. Because again, if you go back to 1986, how many of you drove into Chicago in 1986? How many of you remember the brown and gray haze that was always there when you drove into Chicago in the 1980s? So, thank you.
Does he stimulate any questions?
I do have a question.
Okay,
Is the, is it, can you hear me? There we go. Is the increase in the corn production for ethanol just a result of just the whole market itself? The demand for it has gone up, so kind of like, rising tide raises all ships? Or is it something specific about Kane County where our farmers are getting out there more and just?
No, I think it's more the former than the latter. But, this this can get into a bigger discussion about the carbon footprint of any type of production, which if you look at this for any agricultural crop or livestock, as we see the increases in production, we see the carbon footprint going down and down and down. But I throw it out there, but, partly just because I think it's an incredible success story. The farmers have developed a market for a product. It's a product that benefits and improves the environment, adds to their bottom line. It's just a win-win-win situation.
Thank you.
do these people get copies of the state paper? Was a story about a farmer that was, was it his 60th year or something? And when he first started farming, he got 86 bushel the acre. Now he's probably getting 286. It's that part of our industry has really grown, the work for the seeds.
Correct.
All right.
A question on that. Is that because of improvement in fertilizer or,
Genetics.
or in the
seeds.
seed itself? Okay, thank you.
I don't, fertilizer, funny thing, since they cleaning up the environment, we have to put down sulfur. And that's an ingredient that helps, but we don't get as much sulfur when you don't burn as much coal. So we add that, so yes, that industry is just wonderful for us and you. All right, working farms. I promised her there'd be a lot of tough questions, so Roth, get to work.
Read it. Mavis Online.
Good morning, everyone. How's the sound? Okay, great. Thank you so much for the time on your agenda today. My name is Emmy Brawley. I work for a nonprofit organization called the Conservation Fund, and I'm here to share a little bit about a new program we've launched here in the Metro Chicago region called the Working Farms Fund. I do have some slides. So the Conservation Fund is actually a national group. We're headquartered in the DC area, where we have sort of the back office, legal, marketing, government relations, finance, but the heart of our work is in the field, in field offices, where we do place-based work to support communities and partners. And so I head up the Illinois State Office. I'm Great Lakes Regional Director. And the other thing that's important to know about the Conservation Fund is that we are a real estate shop. So we are very sophisticated with real estate conservation finance. We can move at the speed of business, and our primary work is helping our partners accomplish their top priorities by stepping out and buying property on their behalf and then turning it over to National Park Service, Fish and Wildlife Service, state departments of natural resources. But one of the other key distinguishers for the Conservation Fund is that we were chartered with a dual mission. So we work both on sustainable economic development and land and water conservation. Where those two things overlap is a real sweet spot for us. And a good way of explaining that is that out of the 8 million acres that we've protected across the country, 3 million of those are working lands, so farms, forests, and ranches. So about 5 years ago, a group of us started talking about some internally started talking about some key trends that we were seeing out around farmland and specifically farmland loss. which I know you're all very familiar with, and also sort of the aging demographics of our farmer population. Over 40% of all the farmland in the US is owned by farmers 65 and older. So we are looking at a massive transfer of our nation's farmland as farmers age out and there's a generational shift. Another trend that we were looking at is that a lot of the farmland that is being lost to development is growing our food. So most of the food is produced across the country. Most of the food that's produced is produced in metro influenced areas. And those are some statistics from our friends at American Farmland Trust. 90% of fruits and vegetables, 81% of fruits and vegetables, 90%, I can't read that, tree fruits. And then at the same time as that we're seeing farmland loss and this impending transfer of farmland, we're seeing an increasing demand for local food and a lot of young farmers coming into the sector who want to farm sustainably, who want to produce food. And I don't know if you all follow the USDA Ag Census, but the numbers came out in February for the 2017 to 2022 census. It's done every 5 years by USDA. And Illinois saw a 7.9% increase in young producers over the last 5 years, which is just terrific. And that's almost double the national average. So we have young farmers out there. So kind of looking at these trends and thinking about our real sweet spot around real estate and working lands, we launched a program in 2021 called the Working Farms Fund. We call it a patient path to affordable land ownership. So the biggest challenge that a lot of those young producers are facing is finding affordable access to farmland. So there's been a lot of national survey work done that says not only is finding affordable access to farmland the biggest challenge facing farmers, but it's the #1 reason that people leave the sector. So we have these great producers. We need them to step into the shoes of our aging farmers. And we really want to do whatever we can to help them be successful. So the program creates a patient path to affordable land ownership. We support capital access. We're supporting the adoption of sustainable agricultural practices. We're permanently protecting that farmland so it stays part of our ag infrastructure, and then increasing the supply of locally grown food as well. The program works, it's a model we call buy, support, protect, sell. And so just if you'd indulge me, I can just kind of tell you how it works, because I think that's really key to understanding what we're trying to do. A farmer comes into the program with a business plan saying how they want to scale production if they were able to get access to more farmland. We step out and purchase a farm on their behalf. They get immediate access to that farm under a flexible lease, a 3 to 5 year lease. So they have a supportive landlord. They can take the revenue, turn it back into production, growing their business, investing in the infrastructure and equipment. While they are a tenant on our farm, we do whatever we can to bring additional support and resources to the table, whether that's providing access to markets, coordinating farm support, investing or co-investing in farm infrastructure. The other key thing we do while we own the farm is we raise conservation capital to put a permanent farmland conservation easement on that farm. The Conservation Fund doesn't hold the easements. We work with local partners. Kane County, we hope to be a really strong partner in this program with us. But that does two things. One, it protects that farm forever. All of those investments that have been made in the infrastructure and the soil health are going to be there forever. It also lets us sell the farm to the farmer at its reduced ag value. So it creates an element of affordability. And then this is a sustainable model. The goal is not to build a nonprofit program that's going to need donations every year to run it. So once we hit scale, it's fully self-sustainable and it will pay for itself. So we call this, I like the circle diagram because that underscores that it's a revolving fund. We capitalize the fund and then we can use that to buy farms over and over and over again. Quick note about the farmers. These people that are best suited for our program have experience. It's not for brand new farmers. They've been growing for at least 3 years. They have financial records. They're willing to develop a business plan that shows how they'd like to grow the business. And they also are interested in land ownership and more than 20 acres, and also in sustainable practices. So I have some slides about the support that we bring to the table while we're supporting the farmers, because even though that's, even though our work is really around the real estate side, we're also supporting growing businesses. And so this really falls into the category of economic development, but we're supporting with markets, of trainings, record keeping, financial planning. We're also working closely with NRCS and many ag lenders to help make access to capital needed to grow a business more available. We provide all kinds of support from our amazing team. And then we have had many market partners step out and work to find new pathways to get fresh, healthy local food into institutional institutions as well. So the program actually launched in Georgia, Metro Atlanta. They have now, I think they have 10 or 12 farms. So far in Chicago, we have 4 farms, with the 5th one closing tomorrow. And one of the farms is Rustic Road, which is here in Kane County. Oh, nice. And I think that might be the end of the slide. So those are kind of our roll-ups for the Chicago region to date. 4 farms, 26 farmers, 3.5 million in land value, and $7.97 million USDA award last fall, which is going to help us grow some of those support elements as well as the easement elements of the program. So I have some slides on the 4 farms to date, but we actually have Mark Bernard from Rustic Road Farm here. So he's a participant in the program and can also maybe say a couple of words with your graces. And then we could be available to answer any questions.
Good morning. Thank you so much. We're very fortunate. Some of you may know us. Is that okay? Thank you. From Rustic Road Farm. For the city people, if you want to come out and hold baby goats on Saturdays during the kidding season, we open up the farm for baby goat hugs. So it's been a very popular for everyone. A little bit about us. So we've been farming for about 10 years. This is a second career for me. I was a chef with a great restaurant company in the city for many years, and we bought the property on Brundage simply to live there. We thought we were going to live there and raise food for ourselves. And then we started farming a little bit more. And then the neighbor said, well, you should have a farm stand. I said, okay, we have a farm stand. We can do that. And then it grew from there. We started with 25 CSA shares we were going to do for 10 weeks. We called it a peak season share. And we really liked it. From there, we live on just 5.5 acres. And we've leased land all across Kane County for the last 10 years. And it's a challenge to lease land. And for the type of work growing that we're doing, we need water. We're short-term crops, not deep-rooted crops. So we need water. So that's the biggest challenge. But from those 25 shares, we now do over 700 shares a year. We have another farm where we raise 150 heritage red wattle pigs. We have a laying hen flock of 1,300 birds. We have beehives, and we have our dairy goat herd. And so we've always looked for the opportunity for land, but the challenge, any land that's close to us is out of our reach. There was a property on the end of our road, that he wanted $30,000 an acre for. And when you look at that from a farming standpoint, you can never make money on it. So we met the Conservation Fund 2 years ago. We've been looking since then. We've looked at several properties. over the last couple of years. And then finally, this property on Hughes and Bunker came along at the end of 23. Some of you may know it, the Clune Lara farm. I mean, it's an iconic farm. I mean, drove past it for years, and I always said, if that ever comes up, and this is what I said to Emmy when we looked at another property, I said, if that one comes up, then I'd be interested in that one. Mostly because a lot of the properties that we looked at were not taken care of. And to run the farm, we also have a kitchen in Sugar Grove called the Soup Company, where we produce value-added products that we sell using products from the farm. And so it's just too much to be a developer and on top of everything else that we do. But the Clune Lara farm is in really good shape. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff that has to be done. And so, you know, gratefully, we signed a lease with the Conservation Fund at the end of December 22nd. That was a great Christmas present. And so as of today, there's a lot of work being done. There's a caretaker's cottage that's being remodeled by the Conservation Fund with their support. We're doing work on the main house that's already rented, so we'll rent the cottage out as soon as that's finished. They've done a lot of work for us, the whole support model on the barns and the buildings to make them safe. And we're doing a lot of work too. Our next big project, so at the end of December, we purchased our first cattle. So we have 22 Wagyu Cross. Our next project is to remodel one of the barns and turn it into a cheese house so we can certify our goat dairy and make cheese. And then the other really big there's a pig barn, so we're going to start breeding and farrowing our own pigs on the property. And then the next big project is the well. An ag well for that size property was $175,000 bid. So we're just waiting it out to see if there's any grant money, to see if there's any kind of support we can get for that before we jump into that. But the goal is by next year to move all of our vegetable production to Clune Lara Farm. And I think we can do it. I think we can get money for the well, either through our own operations or through a loan. Conservation Fund has put us in touch with some great lenders that will lend at a really fair rate. So I think it's going to happen by the end of the next year. And for us, I think there's two parts. For us, it gives us access to land and not worrying about a lease. And then for the county, I mean, it's a forever farm. That will forever be a farm. And for me, that's pretty exciting to see that property preserved and not get torn down and continue to farm and provide food for the county. So it just feels like a win-win for everybody. We get a place that we can grow and continue to do business. And then for the county and for the people, the citizens here, to have food forever. That's what I really love about this. And we'll continue to pass it down to the next person when we're done with it. So we're pretty excited about it. Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Thank you, Bill.
Can we go back to the one about the metro slide? Mark, grab the. Up, go forward one. Or was it that?
Oh, no, it's back
Oh, there,
further.
that one.
Um,
Isn't the farms, a lot of the farms near metro, historical reason because your produce didn't last long, so you had to get it to market really quick, and you want to be a market where you can sell. And then eventually, as transportation got better, you know, the refrigerator and stuff, we had a strong transportation hub. I know there's a lot of manufacturers, you know, that take product, you know, Del Monte Farms and et cetera, all through the northern Midwest too, is another have grown up because of all the produce that's available. So that's kind of the reason why it's near metro, right?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then the program that you described, the farm fund, isn't that kind it's a variation of what we're currently doing, buying development rights. Does this give Kane County maybe an opportunity that we can get more farmland to be, you know, buying development rights because we may have some other additional funding through them?
Yes and no. I think the key to what the Conservation Fund is doing is their agility and ability to purchase farms in a very quick manner when they come on the market, which Forest Preserve typically can't do, we can't do. Our easements that we're purchasing are from farmers who already own the land.
Right.
And they want to protect it. What they're able to do is now protect endangered farms before they're sold and converted to another use.
Which is different than what we're doing, but doesn't it give us eventually more farmland that's protected?
Oh,
in Kane County?
absolutely.
That's what
Absolutely.
I'm
Because
saying.
once they purchase it and then provide those critical supports to these new farmers or if you know, in their cohort, you know, to sustain and provide the economic support and then protect it. So, you know, it's all part of that. We're so excited and so grateful
Oh,
for
yeah.
them.
I think it's.
We want them to buy as many farms in Kane County.
Oh, yeah,
as they-
because it helps us. Because we're at what % now protected farms?
I'm not sure the percentage. We're over
No,
6,000
our acres.
over 6,000 acres.
Oh, yeah, and you know, if this could add another 40,000 acres, no, just kidding, whatever. I think it would be a good plus for the county.
Yeah, they're a fantastic partner. We
Right.
want to encourage and support their work here.
Right. Thank you.
Mr. Sanchez first and then the chairman.
Thank you, Mr.
Go ahead.
Chair. My question was, and I'm sorry if you mentioned this detail, there's a lot to this and it's a very exciting program, actually. Do you purchase the property at the normal market rate and then offer at the lower? Okay, so you are taking some loss there, but then money comes back in. So that's what you use to reinvest. Is that how it works? Am I understanding that
Yes,
correctly?
yeah. So that's, I mean, that's really the key differentiator is that we're providing for existing farmers, we're providing a fair market value exit. I get a lot of calls from farmland owners who really want to see their farm stay a farm, but they can't sell at a discount. They can't give it away. But we're able to go out and pay fair market value and compete with developers for those farms. But then through the use of that conservation easement, be able to sell it at the back end to the farmer at a reduced price. So we do get made whole at the end of the day, and that's why the program can be sustainable.
But do you get the returns of your initial investment?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I guess I just don't know enough about that world, so I'm thinking you're taking a loss, but however it works, I think it's an amazing program and it answers a lot of questions that I've had about how we can really support farming, you know, small farms with capital. And because there's that concept of slow food or slow money, I mean, where it's big time investors just deciding to not have huge returns in order to help promote an industry. This is a different approach. And I think it's really hands-on and it's really advanced, and I'm excited to see more about it and in Kane County.
So we do use some of our own capital to buy farms, but we also are working with the types of investors like Slow Money that are willing to lend us capital to buy farms, and then we give it back to them at the end with a small return. So you're dead on with the kind of the structure that we've built and how we're thinking about it.
Madam Chairman.
Thank you. This is a question for Mark with Rustic Road. There's no question that your value-added products are superb. I mean, yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, they are absolutely delicious. But for the other products that you have, what is your market? Is it local? Who are you selling it to besides the individual consumer?
You know, that's interesting. When we started the farm, we thought, well, and at the time I was still with the restaurant company. So we thought, well, we'll do wholesale into restaurants. We're going to have to go to the city, to Green City Market, to other markets outside of this area. And we never went to those markets. The demand is so outstanding that we can't keep up. We limit, I mean, we do a lot of CSA, but you know, a community supported agriculture where you buy a share of the farm and in return, you get a share of the harvest each week for 20 weeks. So we do a lot of shares, 750 is our max, but we cut off. We could do more if we had more. And so all of this food is staying right here. So we do three markets a week at the farm on Wednesday, Friday and Saturday. And Geneva, we're here at the French market on Sunday. We go to Wheaton on Saturday, and we're adding 2 more markets in LaGrange on Thursday and Downers Grove on Saturday also. And that's it. It's all, we don't do any wholesale. Everything is direct to consumer.
Very good.
And the other thing, especially when you come to the farm, and it's an experience, we've tried to create an experience to come to the farm. That's why we do the baby goats. It does help us because it helps get the goats used to being handled. But at the same time, for the guest, and experience holding baby goats like the chicks, I mean, it's just fantastic. And the farm is open. We don't tell people, don't go here, don't go there. Come and see what we do. We have peacocks in the back. And the chickens, they can visit the chickens because we think it's important for people to understand what it takes to raise good food, and to experience good food. So everything stays right here.
One more question, and this is Mr. Roth with talking about refrigeration and distribution. I know from our food banks, they've often reached out to us wanting additional refrigeration equipment to sustain the food that they receive. How is it for our local farmers? What equipment do you need from either the organization that is presenting here or potential from grants to extend that?
So we did purchase 2 refrigerated trucks, which was important to go, especially because we're doing value-added products, but also for the vegetables to bring them to market. But now with the expansion, we need more walk-in coolers to grow, to have at Clune Lara Farm to hold produce. And the other big one is the well, is water. Those are the 2 big ones, is refrigeration and water right now.
Good. So we know as we're planning future opportunities, those should be focused upon. And would you say that's holistically, not just for your farm, for other farmers as well?
Yeah, I mean, the well, part of the expense with the well is because it's a large well, because we're trying to irrigate 30 acres now. So smaller farms, it's not quite as big a chunk, but you definitely need water and refrigeration. I mean, it's really hard to go, we pick lettuce, for instance, and we wash it in cold water, we get it in the cooler right away. And people are amazed how long it lasts at home, because that's the difference. I mean, if you're getting lettuce from California, Arizona, Florida, it's already been in the truck for a week. And so we're cutting that middleman out. And so you're gonna be able to hold lettuce beautifully for 2 weeks at home. And it's because, cold water and then right into the refrigerator. And it makes a huge difference. So yeah, I think all farmers need refrigeration. It's really hard to go from field to market without chilling it down.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, Shepro?
Yeah. Mr. Shepro?
Yeah, just a historical observation, if you will indulge me. One is that, as I recollect, Brundage Road was the very first King County rustic road when that program was begun many years ago. And as I recall, there's also a neighboring farmer on Brundage Road named Drew Fraz that some people may remember. And I guess the third thought is that the road is protected by our historic program, but not the land itself. And so the addition of this farm to the Forever Farms seems like just a really wonderful addition to the concept that we started years ago with the idea of agriculture priority and preserving the rustic road milieu, if you will. Thank you.
Any more questions? All right, thank you. You've stirred us up. This is great. It's what been trying to do, Art Van Kerkhoff been trying to do. This is the fruits of your labor.
No pun intended.
Yeah. Now, we want to move on to the ARPA proposal for Kane County residency. Matt Tansley.
Mark's gonna tee it up. Yeah, I'll tee it up with an introduction. I couldn't ask for a better tee up, actually, for where we're at with this. This is a preview. This is actually going to the ARPA committee next week, and appreciate any, fine tuning questions and support as this goes through the process. I'm going to do a little bit of intro and then turn it over to Matt Tansley, who's done the lion's share of work on this. So just a little bit in summary, and our planning team is very grateful. Back in 2021, when the ARPA committee asked departments to say what are some ideas that could be used for the ARPA funds, we submitted 5 different economic related projects. One, the Fabulous Fox Water Trail Promotion Infrastructure, which is approved and on its, on its way under work with a couple of state grants and with the ARPA dollars. The Kane County Manufacturing Recovery Sustainability Project, which was approved. That's underway with our partner with IMEC, which, just as a reminder, this does include agricultural value-added production for working with IMEC. The other one was our Kane County Tourism Recovery and Promotion, and that's underway with our 2 partners, the Elgin and Aurora Areas Convention and Visitors Bureaus. And then our Economic Development Strategy, which was previewed at the Committee of the Whole the other week, and also moving forward next week at the ARPA Committee, funding for an organization. And all 4 of those have ties to agricultural supports for our agricultural community, because all the agritourism, the opportunities provide locally grown products to our markets and to restaurants are all wrapped into that. The 5th category was what we're now calling the Kane County Food and Farm Resiliency. I have farm in there twice, that's a typo. And that had an original set aside as well also. And so we have an update on how we're proposing to use those funds. One, is you're aware, the livestock assessment, which is just about completed, which Matt Tansley has been working on with New Venture Advisors. And then what we have this morning for you is a Kane County Farmer Recovery Resilience Grants, which would be grants going directly to farmers. We've been working on this for about 1.5 years. A number of years ago, you might remember, we did a mini grant program with the Illinois Farmers Market Association. We provided matching funds to a grant they had that was really well received by our local growers and very effectively used. We've been also meeting with the Conservation Fund. We're aware of their work for a while and very appreciative on trying to make a fit for ARPA funds to help our local farmers. And a couple of things we found out was that ARPA funds aren't well suited for things like purchasing land or purchasing infrastructure. So Mark mentioned things like wells or, converting a building to a milk house, those kind of things we found were not well suited. So I sent Matt back to the drawing board and said, what did we learn from our grant funds? What did we learn from what's, in the sweet spot of funding for ARPA? And Matt came back with this proposal. And part of the concept of it is if we can provide supports for non-capital items, that could in turn free up those funds for capital projects that the farmer might be able to do. So if we can help with seed and inputs and other small purchases up to $5,000, that would free up money that they could spend on capital projects. So it's sort of a backdoor way to help some of the infrastructure needs and provide some immediate help. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt, and he can explain what we've come up with and take any questions that you might have. Thank you, Matt.
Great, thanks, Mark. So as Mark mentioned, this is really basically a scaled up version of some of the previous grant programs that we've administered. We also, in addition to the Illinois Farmers Market Association grant program where we partnered with them, we also had a smaller award amount grant program back in 2021, and we had some funding from Compeer Financial that was paired with Kane County Economic Development Funds to provide $1,000 mini grants through that program. So this is really kind of taking those models and scaling it up quite a bit. And it's really intended as an operating grant to cover operating costs for farmers. In terms of the eligibility, we're proposing to open this for farms operating businesses as well as nonprofit organizations that operate producing organizations as well. We do have a couple of those. They do represent kind of a smaller portion of the overall food production in the county, but we certainly recognize the value of their contributions, and the product that they provide to food pantries and the community is certainly important. So through this program, we're proposing an award amount range of $10,000 to $25,000. So looking at some of the issues backing this, we've kind of looked at some of the effects in the community. Mark touched on this a little bit. We have seen from the ag census that there has been a bit of a contraction in Kane County as far as overall specialty crop production. We saw that 49% decrease in acreage between the 2017 and the 2022 agriculture census. And we also, we saw that continued decline in small acreage farms, those farms ranging between 1 and 4 acres as well. But when we surveyed farmers during the early part of the pandemic, we did hear that they were experiencing revenue losses directly related to the effects of the pandemic. We heard that from about 68% of those respondents. And additionally, 44% reported experiencing increasing costs. And this was even before, we did the survey during the early part of 2021. And that was even before inflation really peaked closer to the mid part of 2021. So those, cost increases were beginning to hit pretty hard. And then more recently with the survey and grant program that we administered with the Illinois Farmers Market Association, we did hear that there were some pretty significant challenges with staffing and volunteer shortages. Just finding the human resources to run these farm operations was a challenge. So I kind of covered most of this, but again, this is just, we're kind of scaling up the previous versions of these programs. And while, certainly the smaller mini grant programs that we administered were beneficial, and there were tangible operational costs that farmers were able to cover with these grants, there were limits to that. And we did hear that, with the lower funding amounts, they weren't quite able to make, larger, more sustainable investments in their operations. So we're hoping with this scaled up program backed by the ARPA funding, that it would allow for more sustained investments that would last over a longer period of time. So in terms of what the grant would cover, so again, this is focusing on operating costs. So that could include, material inputs, labor and contractual services, technical trainings, permit fees, light equipment and machinery. And so, with anything that's considered a capital expense, we have to respect that $5,000 limit under the guidance for use of ARPA funding. So we think this could be a really robust and wide-reaching program. In terms of the goals, so we do have a target of reaching up to 35 food growing farm operations is our current target for this grant program. And also we're looking for at least 50% of those awardees to be able to increase their scale of production, so that more food is reaching more consumers throughout the region. And then lastly, we would like to see that at least a quarter of these recipients are able to make longer term infrastructure investments by offsetting some of the operating costs that they can use with these grant funds. Excuse me. And so this is a summary of the budget that we're proposing. Given the scale of this, we will be relying on contractual staff to help design the grant application, marketing this program, organizing the evaluation criteria to review these to make sure that everything is, that these applications are properly vetted. And then there will be an evaluation process at the end of this as well. And also just being a point of contact during the implementation phase that farmers can contact and have questions answered with respect to this program. So we feel like that is a reasonable cost, and we're estimating that to be a 15 to 20 month contract over the implementation of this. And then the balance of funding, which is currently at $755,000, would be the bulk for grant disbursements that are awarded to farmers. So that's currently as we have it. If we need to make adjustments, we can, but that's what we're currently proposing. As far as the timeframe for this, we're hoping to get the bulk of this off the ground by the middle of this year. So we'll have a phase of scoping and planning, working with our consultant who will be providing the project management services. And then, then moving forward to developing the application, the promotional and marketing material to advertise this program to farmers. And then, there's going to be a period for accepting and reviewing those applications, followed by the implementation of the actual grant disbursements. And I will add, so we have already, the county board has already authorized a consultant, Ellen Camps, who has agreed to do this work. So once the funding is approved, we'll be able to move forward and begin scoping this work with her. So we're really in a good position to set this up and get started. So with that, we'd be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Roth.
Hi, Roth here. Matt, could you go back to the slide where you defined the $5,000 limit? I had a question on the definition per unit. What do you mean by per unit?
Well, just individual pieces of equipment. If it's, like a
So
refrigeration.
is it per farmer or per actually application? So like one farmer could get multiple units, or are you going to?
That's my understanding. I think that is.
Yeah, as an example, that in our discussions with the ARPA team,
right,
is if somebody needed a freezer, a $10,000 freezer would be over that amount. But if they bought two $5,000 units, two separate units that were 5,000 or less, then that would not be considered capital.
Okay.
So but to answer your question, yeah, there could be multiple pieces of equipment. So, if it were those types of small equipment and
right,
items less than $5,000 per unit, that could be eligible to the grant. We'll still be working with this very closely with the ARPA team to make sure that as these applications come in, that the specific things proposed are eligible.
And the restriction would be in the county. I mean, I would like us maybe to spread through the county, so it's not one farmer, doing 20 applications or whatever, to be fair, if we can.
Yeah, we'll try to, we'll get the word out. Matt has developed a real good list, as well as working with our partners at the King County Farm Bureau and our other Illinois Farmers Market Association. We're going to get the word out and try to include everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chairman?
There was mention about the need for a walk-in cooler. I think those are probably cost more than 5,000. What, 20, 40, 50,000? Is that depending on the size? I know they're quite expensive. So I'm thinking completely out of the box right now, similar to the program that we just heard where you loan money at a low interest or no interest. And then that as market improves, that money is paid back. Is such a program been considered for our farmers who may need to scale up? They're scaling up their industry, but they don't have a way to market, to preserve the product, to, let's say, a walk-in cooler. Because again, I've heard this from our food banks, that they need this to sustain the food, to preserve the food for distribution. No, the same thing is happening here to bring it out to market. Is that something like that ever considered where it would be a 0 to very low interest loan that the
Well,
county could provide?
I think the concept of being like a revolving loan fund
Right.
is something that Janice Hill has brought up. We've talked about before. I mean, what we would need is a way to capitalize it,
Mhm.
and then staffing and program management in order to continue to operate an ongoing fund.
Okay.
But I mean, something like that, modeling after, what, great organizations like the Conservation Fund are doing. We're always looking for ways to complement what our partners are doing, to do that. So,
So here we have increased production with land, but they need the capacity to harvest that food for distribution because you can't get it out immediately. There is a process for the distribution of it. Perhaps going forward, that may be something this committee would consider.
Okay.
Hmm.
Any other questions? Thank you for the
I do.
stirring this, Mr. Roth. Yes.
Did have a question. Could these farms utilize more than 25,000? Is 25,000 a number that they kind of gave you as sort of a range, or how did we come up with that range?
So when we were doing research to design this program, we were looking at other examples of ARPA-funded agriculture relief programs, and this was very much reflective of that range for those program grants. This is much more significant than any other agriculture assistance grant that we've administered to date, at least that as long as I've been here with the county. I think the max that we put out with the Illinois Farmers Market Association grant was $3,000. So that was a $1,500 match from the county with $1,500 from the Illinois Farmers Market Association. So we do feel that this is a pretty significant amount, and it's also reflective of the fact that this is an operating grant as opposed to an infrastructure grant, because obviously if infrastructure was eligible, then additional funding would go a lot further in that case. So with the parameters of this, we feel that it's a pretty reasonable range.
Well, it's not nothing. I'm not saying that. I'm just curious if in some instances, a farm could absorb $40,000 worth of operating costs or something to offset. So.
Yeah, we were trying to strike a balance between making a more supersized grant than we've done in the past, but yet still trying to reach a good number of farms. So Matt figured it kind of on 35 farms. We thought that was a reasonable amount to try to spread it as well. So the more you make it, the fewer farms, the more farms, the less money, the less impact. So we're trying to strike a balance, and that's
Well, we could throw more ARPA
our
money
best
at it.
guess.
Like, let's keep putting money in that direction.
Oh, Hey,
Just kidding, just kidding. We have a process.
Yeah, we-
When, with the previous grant, like when we had help with, from Compeer, I know it was smaller, so it's probably very simple as far as the reporting aspects, but did you notice like any farms that had trouble with doing the paperwork and keeping up with compliance? Because obviously ARPA is a little more advanced in that regard.
We did, so as far as the reporting process with the Compeer grant, we did ask recipients to follow up with narrative descriptions of how they use the funding. Excuse me. And in the vast majority of cases, we did receive that. So I think that in this case, you know, we're going to have a bit more of a robust reporting commitment. So, and that's going to be part of what we're going to have to scope with our consultant to design something that's rigorous and also conforms with what the ARPA staff team and Ernst & Young need as far as reporting information goes.
Yeah, because I just know it can sometimes be, if people are having trouble and you have to follow up with them a lot, it can add to staff time. I didn't know if you guys are going to be absorbing that, or are we utilizing like the ARPA staff or Ernst & Young? Have you gotten that far in the planning?
Yeah, we'll be primarily working with our staff, Ellen Kemps, our consultant, and the ARPA team. I'm anticipating this will be a reimbursement type of grant, so
Yeah.
that they'll spend the money, give us the receipts so the ARPA team can completely, assure that and then reimburse them, which some of the other grants have been modeled on that.
Yeah, okay, excellent, thank you.
Mr. Roth?
I have two comments. One, Jared's comment of increasing, I think we need to crawl before we can fly on projects. And then regarding the question, requirements and stuff, we got to be careful not to introduce bureaucracy. I've had some firsthand experience of that with the museum. I applied during COVID to a state grant and it took me 3 hours to fill out the form. And then the county came out with a grant and it was 3 days. They made it a lot more complex than I think they needed to. And so we need to be aware of that and continue to not add bureaucracy on top for these small organizations to fill out these forms, because a lot of them can't do it and they won't apply. And that was an example of that King County grant. I'm sure a lot of nonprofits didn't bother filling out because they made it way more complex than I think they needed to be. So we got to be smart about it.
Are there any other questions or suggestions? Seeing none, do we want to move to new business? Is there any new business?
Jody's got something.
Agricultural friends are complaining about garbage on the highways. We need to do something to stop the trucks that don't hold their loads. Route 47, Route 64, I'm sure 38. They lose a lot of it on the way to the dump. Can you fix that, Mark?
Right on it.
Harps.
I promised him, but
I think
say
that's
that.
Mr.
Jody?
Rickerson, Mr. Ricker's issue.
Thank you. I wasn't on the agenda, but Steve Arnold had mentioned I have the House Bill number 5386, stream wetlands and small streams. I just wanted to make sure the committee was aware that Kane County is specifically mentioned in that proposal. And we currently, under our stormwater ordinance, are regulating wetlands and small streams that are not covered by the Army Corps of Engineers. And so the way it's written, the IDNR would be reviewing our ordinance and then we would continue to operate the same way we are. So that if passed the way it is, that should have no impact on our farmers here in Kane County and any of the collar counties that have stormwater ordinances. But it certainly is a greater concern for the downstream counties that don't have stormwater ordinances and aren't currently regulating wetlands. So I just want to make sure that was clear to all the county board members that we are covered and we've reviewed the draft and we believe that we meet all those requirements within our current stormwater ordinance and are already enforcing that in Kane County specifically.
Thank you for that. And there, that was new business reports on file. You want to put them on file?
Sanchez will request unanimous consent to place the reports on file.
Saying none, we will. Is there a need for an executive session? No. Now there's a need for.
I'll
another-
make a motion, we adjourn.
Roth, thank you. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.